Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Effortless. I am your host, Piddle, and with me is my good friend, Spigel.
Hello.
So, Spigel, how are you doing this fine morning?
You know I'm cranky. We've already recorded this intro like 5 times, and I'm getting crankier by the second.
Yeah, Spigel has a lot of things that he wants to vent about today.
So here's my first one. This morning I had to wake up early because we're moving, so we had to go to our new apartment complex to check out the area, and we had to sign some paperwork. And the property manager or her assistant or whatever is like a complete airhead, and she was driving me freaking insane this morning because we had to keep redoing the forms because she wasn't telling us the proper instructions or whatever. So, how many times have you moved in your life?
I have moved... Well, are we including as a child or just on my own?
No, just like adult moves.
On my own, I have moved over half a dozen times.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't expect that. I expected 3 times maybe. Anyway,
No, just
this is my
general upgrades every time.
So this is my second move in a year, and the first time wasn't that bad because it was new and it was exciting, and it's like, yes, I'm finally moving out of the dorms at Fresno State, and I get to go live on my own in my apartment with my wife-to-be, and then we got married, and then we're living here, and now I have to move because rent is going up, and it's just pissing me off. There's so much stuff that I have to take care of before we go. There's all these forms that I don't remember signing the first time have to be filled out this time. We got to get boxes, and we got to make sure that the frickin' bugs that live in our dumpster of a home don't travel with us and all this garbage.
Oh, dear.
And then I'm at work the other night, and these people with face tattoos show up in the drive-thru, and I'm like, I got to deal with people with face tattoos, and that's the next subject that I want to rant about.
Yeah, so what do you think about face tattoos? I have never seen a face tattoo yet.
That's
personally.
because you live in the Midwest. You know, I live in California. There's a lot of freaks out here, and not to judge. If you have a face tattoo and you're not a freak, let me know and post a picture of your awesome face tattoo. I bet it's really classy. I bet it's like one of those teardrops or one of those those tattooed on eyebrows that make so much sense.
What about tattoo advertisements? What do you think of those?
if you have like a barcode on your butt or something, you know, actually that'd be pretty funny.
Are you aware that that's a method of advertising apparently?
Is it really?
Yeah, tattoos on the forehead.
I have a whole new rant now. Then, what are you talking? Where have you seen this?
This is a thing.
What do they advertise?
Look it up.
Like video games, like the big Nintendo logo on their forehead. I'd get that.
Yeah,
actually,
pretty much.
That would be awesome. I think maybe
probably anything you can think
for
of.
5 seconds, and then you regret it, just like every other tattoo ever. Do you have any tattoos?
I do not have any tattoos.
Yeah, I don't either.
Do you have any desire?
I'm not saying that it's stupid to get a tattoo, because if you're really passionate about something and you want to put it on your body forever, or at least forever, with an expensive insurance policy on getting it removed or whatever, you can do that and you have the right to do that. But I would never do it. I don't feel like I'm passionate about anything that much to get a tattoo, especially not on my frickin' face, where I have to get a job and support my family, and you can't work anywhere if you have a face tattoo. That's my biggest
there are
thing.
places you can work,
from home. You could do this podcast if you had a face tattoo.
If you're behind the scenes enough, warehouse settings.
I see these people. I don't know. I wouldn't hire someone with a face tattoo to work at my factory. I wouldn't, because it shows I feel like it shows a lack of judgment. And like I said, if you feel like I'm judging you because you have a face tattoo, well, maybe you should have thought about that before you got a face tattoo.
So you don't think that it shows a certain amount of confidence in yourself as a person? And
I suppose that's one way to look at it. I've never considered that before.
I would actually really love to hear from anybody who has visible tattoos, not even just face tattoos, about what they go through in an interview environment, if they're ever asked about that.
That would be interesting. I did have someone that I worked with who had a neck tattoo, and he had to cover it up at the job. We're not allowed to have any visible tattoos that are not on our arms. So I'd be curious to see if you work in a retail job, or even just an office job or something like that. I'd be interested to see what the policy is on tattoos where you work. Just I don't know. It's something that's something that's interesting.
Throw us your comments.
Give us some comments
or if you
about
know
your
anybody
tattoos.
who has tattoos.
Yeah, or if you know anyone who has a face tattoo. And that brings up another interesting question, in my opinion, and that is, if you have a face tattoo, like, what do you get on your face? Like, what is representative enough of you or something that you like or whatever that you'd want to get it on your face? Like, your face is the first thing that anyone sees on your person. So if you come up to someone and you have if you have a tattoo of Banjo and Kazooie on your face, like, you're going to be associated with that, I guess.
I would just be too nervous or too concerned that my tastes would change throughout life. People change a lot. And
that's exactly
life.
Why I can't get a tattoo, because I'm always afraid of that.
So
also, I take no risks. So
I've always been of the opinion that if I did get a tattoo, it would be related to likely my family, because that's
you get the Piddle family crest on there.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to design it still, but someday, and it's going to look amazing.
Yeah. Are family crests even still a thing? Like, I don't know if we have one in my family.
They should be.
They are always.
People
I always
should
thought
bring
they were
them
pretty
back.
cool.
Put them on your house.
Yeah.
Put them on the front door. Family crest.
I'm gonna get mine embossed in gold, and it's gonna get stolen. It's gonna get stolen in like 5 seconds around here. But
get bumper stickers for all your family cars of the family crest. Oh, I like that. That's a great idea.
Speaking of things we like, let's talk about the games that we played this week. Hey, boom! How's that for a transition?
Perfect. 52 games.
I know I'm not hosting, but I had to throw that in there.
52 games, 1 year. Spiegel, we are 3 weeks into.
This is the beginning. By the time this is posted, this will be the beginning of the 4th week. So we are about 21 days in. What did you play this week?
I played the same thing I started last week.
Did you talk about it last week? I can't remember.
I did talk about it a bit last week. You talked about your game as well.
I did, and I finished mine as well.
Yeah, we both finished our games. I played Shovel Knight on the PlayStation Vita, and you played
Virtue's Last Reward on the 3DS.
Oh, you should have played it on the PlayStation Vita.
I should have, except I don't have a Vita because I don't want to spend $200 on a paperweight.
It's not so much the $200 for the console that's a problem.
Oh, I'm sorry, $200 plus tax.
The console is the console is amazing. PlayStation Vita is. I love it. I absolutely love it. The screen is gorgeous.
I know the screen.
A lot of the games look absolutely fantastic on it. I mean, you're playing mostly HD games on your console portable, and with better than PlayStation 2 GameCube quality graphics. The issue with the PlayStation Vita is they like to charge way too much money for memory for the system.
Yes. We're off topic, actually. This is...
I think this will go back into our later topic for the day, but can you tell me about Virtue's Last Reward a little bit more now that you're done with it?
So we've already talked about it a little bit. Like I said, it's the sequel to 999, so it's the same type of gameplay. It's a visual novel with puzzle elements, and this one is actually, when I first started it, I didn't expect to love it because it was different characters from 999. I mean, there's a couple returning ones, but I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna attach to these new characters. It made me uncomfortable to be introduced to a whole new cast. But then I got into it and I'm like, nope, this game is better than 999. Like, it fixes all the problems. And I mentioned that.
So what were some of the problems with 999?
So just briefly, because I know we did talk about this last week, but you couldn't speed read through the text, like you couldn't press A to make it go faster. There was no voice acting, which this game had. It was also just, in general, a more slowly paced game that required you to redo things in order to see everything. But in this game, you could just jump from timeline to timeline and see all the different endings without ever really having to replay or re-see anything that you've already seen.
That sounds like a huge improvement. It's
an enormous improvement, and it has 24 different endings. So it was a lot of work. It took me about 28 hours, I think, to get everything.
So you went through you didn't even just beat it, you completed it.
It's the kind of game where if you don't see everything, you kind of feel like you didn't beat it, just because there's so much. Because it's a novel, right? So if you don't experience everything, it's like, well, it's kind of like reading one of those choose your own adventure books without actually like reading all the pages just to see how your character died. Yeah, you just skip
to try to find all the horrible deaths that your character.
Yeah. I loved those Goosebumps books when I was a kid. Those were always my favorite, the Choose Your Own Adventure ones. I would read those all the time.
Are there horrible deaths in Virtual's Last Reward?
Oh yeah, there's some really bad ones. There's some. I don't want to spoil any of them, so I won't. But it's a game that's definitely worth playing. I plugged it on Space Pirate Radio, our new show. I plugged it on last week's show. I probably plugged it during the podcast a week ago or whatever. So if you just check out the game, if you can find it anywhere, it's amazing. I'd recommend this to anybody who likes books
and anybody who owns a PlayStation Vita.
Yeah, with either Vita or 3DS, both consoles, I'm sure you'll get an equal experience. I read the reviews, and it didn't seem like there was a huge difference between the two versions. So
perfect.
But talk about Shovel Knight, because I know you touched on it briefly, and I don't think we got your full thoughts on it ever.
So Shovel Knight, now that I am done with it, it is easily one of the best games I have played in years, easily. And I don't think I really talked about that last week, but playing the game, it's like going back in time to a classic Nintendo Entertainment System game, like a classic Super Mario Brothers 3. And I've said this all before. It's like Super Mario Bros. 3. It's like playing Legend of Zelda. It's like playing Mega Man. Yeah, it's like playing all those games, but with a lot of modern taste to it, a lot of modern flair. So, I mean, there's elements where you're leveling up. There's a lot of, like Mega Man, there's a lot of cool new items to use and unlock for combat or just to help with the platforming sections in the game, because it's very much a platformer.
The music, man. The music.
Yeah, the music is incredible. I've talked about it before. There's checkpoints in the game, but as like an added challenge, you can destroy the checkpoints in the game for extra money, which money is essentially like experience, where except you can buy new upgrades with your money that you obtain. And so yeah, you can destroy all the checkpoints in the game and just try to make it through every level without even dying a single time, collecting all the money you can so you can buy more stuff earlier in the game.
So yeah, we did ratings last time we beat games. So what would you rate Shovel Knight out of 5?
5 out of 5. One of the best games I've ever played.
I can't remember what I gave 999. I think I gave it a 4.5. I'm going to give Virtue's Last Reward a 5. It's that good. It's I haven't played everything I own on 3DS, obviously, because my backlog is massive, but I think it is the best game on 3DS that I own. It's right up there with Animal Crossing and A Link Between Worlds and Majora's Mask 3D, but I don't think that counts.
Shovel Knight is, yeah, I've told you before, it's the best game I've played since A Link Between Worlds. Probably,
and Super Mario 3D Land.
Yeah, probably going back even further before A Link Between Worlds. I can't even think of the last game that, honestly, the 52 games in a year thing right now, I'm sort of hating it because I feel like I have to move on to a new game.
You just want to keep playing Shovel Knight, huh?
And I just want to go back. I want to keep going back and playing Shovel Knight again and again. It was that good. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I cannot recommend it.
What are you waiting for? It's been out for like a year.
Shovel Knight?
On Wii U and 3DS, yeah.
I've literally been waiting for it to come out for the PlayStation.
Not you. I mean people in general.
Oh.
Like you've had the option.
Yeah, if you've not bought it yet, for shame.
Shame on you. Do the little finger motion that they would do in elementary school. Did they do that at your school?
I don't think they did.
You'd hold your left index finger out, and then you'd like kind of go across it with your right index finger. Go for shame. Maybe that was my school.
Oh,
only.
Yep, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was. Okay.
So tell me, what do you plan to play for? What do you plan to play? Blah, blah, blah. You know, I got tongue-tied earlier, and we edited it out, but we'll just keep
We're not
this
editing
in.
this out. No, this is too funny.
So
this is good stuff right here.
What do you plan to play?
I am already playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. All the games I've played this year have been on my 3DS. Believe it or not, 999 is a DS game, but I played Box Boy, Virtue's Last Reward. Now I'm on to Xenoblade Chronicles, and I didn't realize it until like right now. Every game I've played on my 52 games has been on my 3DS. I can't put it down. The Majora's Mask new 3DS has me in its clutches, and because it's so beautiful and wonderful, and I love it, and I don't want to put it down ever.
It is a beautiful console, or portable. I wish I had one myself.
So yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm about 8 hours into it. Haven't had a lot of time to play this week, which sucks because it's a super long game. But it's amazing. I'm loving it so far. It's probably one of the best RPGs I've played, and I'm only 8 hours into it. I can't wait to see how the story unravels.
At least it's portable, so you can literally play it.
I said unravels. Unravels is the completely wrong word. I meant unfolds. So
you're not saying like the story is really good and then it just completely falls apart?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It might. It is a Japanese RPG after all, but the game is really good itself. The gameplay is surprisingly deep. I didn't expect it because at first I just thought, well, I can just stand there and like watch Shulk attack for me. But there's actually like a bunch of different things that you can do during battle that make things more interactive. So yeah, I'm really enjoying Xenoblade. Highly recommended to anyone with a new 3DS. Incidentally, it is a new 3DS exclusive. So if you haven't played it on Wii, you got to get it on new 3DS, I guess.
That is something that's a bit of a shame. I wish that it was available on the regular 3DS.
There's no way this game could run on the regular 3DS. No way. It can barely run on the new 3DS.
So lots of frame rate drops.
The one criticism I have, no, actually no frame rate drops, but the one criticism I have of it is that it's very blurry, and it's the textures are really bad, which isn't a huge issue because I've never been a big graphics guy. But if you're a big time graphics whore, I wouldn't necessarily recommend playing it on new 3DS. But again, the one benefit of it is I can play it anywhere. So I'll go to work and I'll have 15 minutes before I start my shift, so I'll go kill some monsters, and then I can just go to work, and then I go on my break and I kill some more monsters, and then I go back to work. And then all of a sudden I'm killing my coworkers, and I'm like, what happened?
So I think we're going to be able to expect to hear a lot more about.
Well, at least my wife laughed at that joke in the other room. I couldn't get a laugh here, but oh well.
I don't laugh at anything. You know this.
I know. Like I don't think you're even a human being.
It's true. I'm part robot, sent back from the future.
So what are you playing? What are you playing now?
I have not actually started playing anything yet.
You're in between games right now?
Yeah, I am sort of in between games.
Well, the good news is that you're not behind, and neither am I. I'm not behind until the end of this week, which I certainly will be by the time the week's over, because there's no way I'm getting 60 hours in on Xenoblade this week. But you've got time to play a short game and get right back on track.
You bet. I actually will probably pick a longer game this week, and just because I'll have a little bit more time this week to knock something out. So I might be a little bit ambitious.
Well, I feel your pain if you choose a game that's 60-plus hours long like I did.
I will not do that. Yeah, so our last thing that we wanted to talk about today, and this is can be a pretty big subject, is...
I hope so. We have like 20 more minutes to fill.
We love to talk about, we're fanboys. We like to talk about our favorite consoles and why they should win or lose. And so today we decided we're going to talk a little bit about why do certain consoles win every generation.
So let's first, before we do this, let's go through and say which console obviously won every generation, starting with the NES era. It was basically NES and Mega Drive.
Yep.
And or what did they call it here in America? Was it the Mega Drive? It was the
Sega Master System. The Mega Drive was the Genesis in Europe.
Yeah, not the what was the Master System called in America? Not the Mega Drive.
I believe it was the Master System.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Whatever.
So yeah.
Then Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. The winner, I believe, was Super Nintendo by what, 10 million units or something?
Yeah, it was.
And of course, we're also defining the winner of the generation as being the one that sold the most units. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Except for one generation, we'll talk a little bit about.
Yeah.
Two winners, maybe.
Yeah, I would say two. And then so we had
Saturn,
Nintendo 64, Sega Saturn, and PlayStation.
And
PlayStation.
I think you had some other ones thrown in there, like the 3DO and
the 3DO and the Neo Geo. Was the Neo Geo that was technically in with the Super Nintendo, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Neo Geo was, and it still has games coming out for it apparently.
I know. I heard about that the other day, and I was like, that is ridiculous. And
Pretty
they have
fascinating.
they have a new design for it. and this is unrelated, but I mentioned ukulele before the start of the show?
Yes, you did.
And how I wanted to bring it up. The only thing I wanted to say about it was I think it's awesome that they're making a Nintendo 64 cartridge available for certain backers. They're going to put the game on a Nintendo 64 cartridge.
Yeah, as a USB drive,
amazing.
I believe.
That's what? I thought it was an actual cartridge.
It is a Nintendo 64 cartridge with a USB thumbstick inside of it that will contain the game.
So, can you play it on Nintendo 64?
I wish.
Well, then who cares? I don't care about that.
Oh, I just ruined Spiegel's day.
You ruined my day again.
I just made him more grumpy.
With your, yeah, dang it. All right. So that was the PlayStation, PlayStation 2, Sega Dreamcast, Nintendo GameCube, Microsoft Xbox.
Yeah, the newcomer, the Xbox.
PlayStation 2 just dominated.
Annihilated.
That's
That's what it was. It was an annihilation.
Yeah. And then next after that was this is the one that we're gonna say had two winners.
The Wii,
which was,
PlayStation
Wii, PS3,
3, Xbox 360,
and that's because the Wii doesn't really count.
And
because by the end it wasn't even a gaming system; it was a Netflix box.
Yeah, it really was, and a Mario Kart box.
Yeah, and this generation, PS4 is the winner.
It's pretty clear that PlayStation 4 is going to win this generation.
I feel like this is different than the PS3, Xbox 360, where the PS3 caught up. I don't feel like Microsoft can catch up.
This is not a situation that, can really be recovered.
Because the 360 had a lot of problems closer to the end of its life, whereas the PS3 flourished. It had a bad start, but then it did better at the end because it started fixing all of its problems. I feel like every time Microsoft tries to address one of the issues with the Xbox One, it backfires.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not feeling the Xbox One. I don't feel like it's going to be successful at all this generation. I think
it's been a huge disappointment.
I think Sony is set for more domination again.
They definitely are.
It helps that they have the entire Japanese market basically all to themselves.
If you weren't aware, listeners, the PlayStation 4 is actually tracking just under the Wii, I believe, at this point.
Sony announced that I believe it had sold 23.2 million units after March, I think.
In just a little over a year, over 23 million units.
Yeah, what the heck?
That is astounding. It has already surpassed probably what the Wii U will sell in its lifetime.
Okay, so we've complained about this forever, about why the PS4 is selling, but that's not what we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about why they win.
Why? Why do the consoles win that win? And also one interesting thing to note, Sony has won every generation, if you're including the PS3. Every generation they've been a part of.
Oh, they have.
Yeah, you didn't notice that until now, huh? But PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 technically, and then PlayStation 4 is going to win too.
And remember, we're talking about winning in terms of
sales numbers.
Not who made the most money, because the PlayStation 3 definitely lost Sony a lot of money.
And also not who had the best games either, because we all know that that Sega wins every generation with laughter. Okay.
No, I'm just
gosh.
I couldn't even believe you were actually going to say Sega. I was expecting Nintendo, and I was like, wait, Sega?
No, I was you were
really?
right to expect Nintendo, because Nintendo makes the best games. And like we said, we are fanboys, so just take all this with a grain of salt and don't take it too seriously.
I am actually quite a bit of a Sony fanboy now.
I don't really even know how you define fanboy anymore, because Nintendo is my favorite company, and I will defend a lot of the decisions they make. But I also think some of the things they do are stupid, and I also like to play games on other consoles. Like, I love my 360. I've got so much great stuff on there. So, am I a fanboy? Yes, maybe.
I think
what's it?
I would consider a fanboy like whatever console you are trying to push on other people. That's sort of your allegiance.
Okay, all right.
And
I guess that's a fair.
It might change, but generally it stays the same. Like, we usually think Nintendo does no wrong. I feel like if you don't own a Wii U, you are. I don't know how you can consider yourself a gamer.
That's
a gamer. And I understand why people would go in directions other than the Wii U, because the Wii U just has an awful online infrastructure. I mean, how am I going to play with anybody online with the Wii U? like
Okay,
any
we're
of
getting
my
way,
friends.
we're getting
But,
way
yeah.
off topic. We're getting way off topic. Let's bring it back
So
if we can.
we will. So
What were we talking about?
why do consoles win?
Well, okay, so let's go example by example. Some facts for you. The Super Nintendo launched at a price of $199 US. The Sega Genesis launched $10 cheaper, and it was launched 2 years before the Super Nintendo. So price virtually not a big differential. I was not able to find the information on how much the Genesis cost when the Super Nintendo came out. However,
That's a shame.
That might have had something to do with it. I would expect that there would have been a price drop by then.
I wouldn't be surprised if the prices were still very similar at that point.
Can we say that price is a major indicator of who will win the generation? Because if the price is not that different, it's kind of a toss-up. But if there's one console with a significantly lower price, doesn't it usually perform better? For example, the Wii came out $250. The Xbox 360 was $100 more. The PS3 was like $500 more.
The PlayStation 2 launched at $200, I believe. So did the GameCube.
The GameCube also launched at $200, but did not have a DVD drive, which I think
we'll get to that.
No question, that was the deciding factor
But
there. I don't think we even need to cover that generation.
Generally, price it needs to be just something competitive. It looks like.
So we have competitive price is one key. It needs to either be way cheaper or it needs to be at least competitive.
Yeah, comparable to the competition. And
right.
I mean, one of the generations you can look at, and that's our generation we sort of crown our two winners: the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and the Wii. The PlayStation 3 was priced completely out of the race at the beginning at $600 or $500 to $600.
I remember watching that press conference live on G4 TV back when that was a thing, and I saw the $599 US, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, why would anyone ever pay that much for anything?"
Yeah, it was
like this. I was 11 years old, and like $600 was just not a thing that existed to me at that time.
And what was the 360? I think 360 was originally $300 and $400.
$350 and I don't know that seems. No, that doesn't seem right. We should have looked this up beforehand, but
it was pretty expensive still. The Wii was the one that was priced much more competitively at $250.
Right. And it came with a game.
Yeah, and it came
a very important game, by the way.
But I think that one other thing that ties into price and that you can also look at is the games have generally been the same price through every generation. But there was one generation where games were not priced the same. And that was the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 generation.
So we're jumping around a bit, but generally I think all the points apply to all the generations, like the comparable price and the price points of the games and stuff. And what was your example for this? How much more were N64 games compared to PS1 games?
N64 games were up to $30 more expensive about. N64 games could cost about $70, PlayStation games $40 to $50. And
I think the two games that came out, by the way, two games on launch day for the Nintendo 64 was Pilot Wings and Super Mario 64. I think they were both $70.
Yeah, and PlayStation games even cost around $30. I remember towards the end of its life, the greatest hits for PlayStation where you could go to the store and buy a greatest hits title for, I believe it was like $10. So that was, price was a huge part of that generation. And it also tied into some other things like the cartridge versus the disc, and discs were a lot cheaper, but discs also had other advantages and downfalls. But so going beyond price, what would you say about content, Spiegel? So
I think one of the things that a lot of these winning consoles have in common is a large. I'm not sure if this is truly an answer to your question, because I think it might be more reflective of the fact that more people owned the console, but I feel like a large number of games is often indicative of the winner. And like I said, I feel like that may not be the best reflection because it might be the opposite way. People buy the console, so people make more games for that console. It's definitely true in
Fair argument.
It's definitely true for the Wii. But I think for the Super Nintendo and Genesis is the best argument, because the Super Nintendo had all these games and just a crap ton of games, like unique, exclusive games.
And they had to play catch up too.
Yeah, and they had to play catch up, and they were still. I mean, I didn't look up the numbers again, but I'd be willing to bet that Super Nintendo had more games on it by the end of its lifespan in 1997 than the Genesis did by the end of its lifespan in 1994. So. And they were both on the market for basically the same amount of time.
And we also know that the original Nintendo had just a massive amount of games for it.
Yeah.
So why would anybody go anywhere else? And part of that is also like the quality of the content on the Nintendo. And I feel like that's something that should be discussed with the Nintendo. It was so successful because Nintendo initiated very restrictive guidelines when it came to releasing games. You could only release 3 games per year, so you had to make those games good if you wanted them to sell well. And a lot of companies made spin-offs like Tengen, or Konami had Ultra.
It's hard for me to believe that LJN only released 3 bad games a year. It often seemed to me, based on all the bad LJN games that are out there, seemed like they probably got like 7 or 8.
It just means that every single one of their games was just awful. Somehow they managed to pull that off.
They got all the movie licensed games, basically all of them in the 80s.
And oddly, that philosophy Nintendo had with the Nintendo that sort of brought gaming back, because gaming would never have come back without the quality of games that were being put out during the Nintendo.
So your main argument is that the quality of games on the system is a big driver for which games, for which systems win. Now, I don't know if I agree with that, and here's why. I think it's correct for the Super Nintendo era, but for all of the other eras, I don't think I agree, because I look at games on the Nintendo 64 like Banjo-Kazooie, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Super Mario 64, Paper Mario. I think price might be superseding the quality. I think price is a more important factor because obviously lots more PlayStations were sold than N64s, even though N64, I think the consensus is that it had better games. I might be wrong on that. If you were to ask 100 random people who played games in 1998 which system was better, I don't know what people would have said.
Yeah. I think
if you ask those same 100 people today,
quantity ties into those as well.
Of what?
The quantity of games ties into that as well, because the N64 just had these awful gaming droughts where you were going half a year without a new game on the Nintendo 64.
Without a major new good game. And similar to what we saw...
No, half a year without a game, period. Wasn't it?
Maybe. I have no idea. I didn't look this up before we started.
It was that bad.
This is Effortless. We don't do any actual work before the show starts. But it's the same with... if what you're saying is true, then we're seeing the exact same thing with Wii U, right? But at any rate, so I'm not sure if quality is as important as you think it is, because I don't know if it can be argued.
Maybe it's not, because we have a current generation that just continues to baffle me.
Right, and I think that's because you have your foundation on this idea that quality is what sells. I don't think quality sells. I think marketing is what sells. But so we've seen that the Genesis sold incredibly well the first 2 years of its lifespan before the Super Nintendo, because it had this aggressive marketing strategy that says Genesis does what Nintendo don't. You can't do this on Nintendo. You don't get 16-bit sports action with I don't know. I just watched the commercial the other day for Space Pirate Radio, but
blast processing.
Yeah, blast processing. That's a thing. I love in that commercial they showed Super Mario Kart versus Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, Super Mario Kart's this crappy game that's just
it's
sucks.
So slow. Look at how slow you go. This is how fast you can go on Genesis.
Fast forward, Mario Kart's like one of the best-selling franchises of all time, and Sonic is just
a joke,
flopping around on the on the floor like a pathetic, dead, dying fish. Octopus monster.
I feel like this is a big other direction is the advertising. So I want to rewind back to content just real quick.
Okay.
So are we going to say that quantity of content outdoes the quality of the content?
I think that's for the most part that is true. I feel like systems that have, I mean, again, we can say that it's more reflective of the number of people that have the system that results in there being more games for that system. But I think it also works the other way around as well. I think that the system that has more games will attract more buyers. Because whether or not the games are actually good, the fact that you can put together a sizzle reel and say, these are the 38 games that are coming out this holiday season for this console, and then you look over at, like, say for example the Wii U, and it has Smash Brothers, and it has Mario Kart, but it's not a lot,
Yeah.
And I feel like it is quantity more than quality, and in the same capacity I feel like that's why it's marketing that drives sales more than actual quality of games.
So you would say marketing over quality and quantity.
I think in order of importance, based on the things we've discussed so far, it's going to be number 1 is marketing, number 2 is price, which kind of plays into marketing, number 3 is quality of games.
All right.
So that's my opinion.
I just feel it. See, I'm still a big believer that the games do matter, and the quantity.
I know you want that to be true, and I want it to be true too. I'm just not sure that it is. That's my thing.
Well, I'm going to argue the PlayStation 4 has the most games, correct?
Right.
So it's coming out ahead, and it's coming out strong. A lot of the games are, multi-platform, and I'm the first person to say, well, if it's multi-platform, why don't I just have a computer, which I do. But if you don't have a computer and you're just getting a console, it does have the most games available for you right now at the highest quality or visual quality and whatnot, plus a few other exclusives. If you looked at the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and the Wii, the Xbox 360 just absolutely crushed the PlayStation 3 early on. And
in terms of exclusives and quality games, like
Yeah.
it had, like freaking Gears of War came out in 2006. That game was amazing. That is the definition of a killer app for that system. And yet, here we are. PS3 has now sold more worldwide units than the 360.
But part of that is, and I think this is a great example here with the PlayStation 3 versus the 360, is the 360 at the beginning was getting way more exclusive content than the PlayStation 3. It had so many more games, and a big part of it was just easier to program for. But because companies wanted to sort of double dip and have a bigger market, they really worked on making their game engines scalable or portable over to the PlayStation 3, or so that the games would run at reasonable frame rates on both systems. And so there was a little bit less parity, and the PlayStation 3, due to its massive amount of first-party titles, because Sony really dove in with the first-party titles.
Oh yeah, and they were really the first company to embrace the HD remaster as well. They remastered all those old PS2 games, the Ratchet and Clank series, Jak and Daxter, God of War. They all got HD remasters fairly early on, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, they really went after.
And then more recently, the Kingdom Hearts ones, which have also been massively successful.
They really went after getting the content and not so much. Well, there was a lot of quality there, but just a lot more quantity than the Xbox 360. Because I mean, if you look back to the Xbox 360, you can really look at the number of Microsoft's exclusives. You had Fable games every once in a while, and then you had Halo and Gears, and that was it. But with the PlayStation,
Bayonetta was a timed exclusive. People bought that in droves.
But yeah, like BioShock was originally, you could only get that on the 360.
I forgot that was initially a 360 exclusive. Wow, that would have been that's a huge exclusive, man.
Absolutely. So the 360 had the games, but it eventually got to the point where, because developers wanted a bigger market to go after.
Money.
It led to more games on both consoles, and then sort of the quantity of exclusives that Sony was churning out gradually caught up, plus the fact that the PlayStation 3 came with a Blu-ray drive, which we can get into. But that was just such a huge part of it, of why the PlayStation 3 eventually caught up. At least I feel like it was.
I feel like I agree with those points, and I also feel like there's one more that needs to be added, and I feel like that's the fact that near the end of its life, I feel like the 360 hasn't really had anything lately, but the PS3 continues. This is what Sony always does. It has a huge tail where they'll be releasing games for years into their next console. Like they stopped making PS2 games in what, 2008,
Yep.
2009.
10-year cycle. They said PlayStation 3 would have a 10-year cycle. It is
And we're
2015. They have
still going.
1.5 more years to go, and I guarantee you that they will have a 10-year cycle, which is
I mean,
pretty
if not
impressive.
10 years, they're right there. It's like 9 years, and they just released Kingdom Hearts 2.5 HD Remix Dream Drop with dreams and 358 days on December, and then they're still getting like multi-platform stuff too. As for exclusives, I don't know how much the PS3 is going to hold up, but they didn't really do that on PS2 either.
No.
Anyway, that's the last thing I wanted to add is that I feel like the PS3 is better at extending its lifespan than the 360 was.
So, I feel like there was something else that we wanted to talk about
Regarding why consoles do better?
Yeah. Well, actually, going back, if we look at the PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox era as well, I think this is an interesting one because
I've got one more after you too. I've got one more thing.
The GameCube lost that one, and that was another sort of situation where the quantity of games the GameCube did not have, and yeah, there was the image thing as well, but the GameCube suffered in terms of how many games it had. Not so much because it was underpowered, because it was more powerful than the PlayStation 2.
It was the most powerful of the generation if you look at specs.
It likely was. I think the lack of DirectX hurt it a lot. The lack of DirectX support that the Xbox had. So Microsoft had some great tools, I think, and that sort of helped them with the graphics.
I think there's an argument to be had, but the point is that it was definitely more powerful than the number one selling console of the generation, for sure.
But the issue with the GameCube is it lacked, just like the Nintendo 64, and Nintendo got blasted for this again and again during the GameCube generation, is it lacked disk space. I think the GameCube disk could only hold something like 1.7 gigabytes. Don't quote me on that. But if it was any more than that, it was probably only just barely over 2 gigabytes. Whereas the Xbox and the PlayStation 2, those consoles could hold on a single layer like 4.5 gigabytes of data, and on 2 layers 9 gigabytes of data.
Which is why you could play Resident Evil 4 on one disc on PS2, but you had to get 2 discs for GameCube. Which I remember it was the first ever 2-disc game that I bought, and I'm like, this is strange. Why am I buying 2 discs?
And that just sort of says, for developers, it just made another barrier for them and made them not want to port their games over to all 3 systems. It was easier for them to have it on like Xbox and PlayStation 2.
Right.
But then the GameCube, it was just so difficult to get all the data down to just one disc that it wasn't really worth the investment for those companies.
By the way, this is Wolfenstein: The New Order for 360, I believe, is 4 discs. Just an interesting little tidbit there.
Wait, what?
I'm pretty sure it's Wolfenstein. There's a game for 360 that requires 4 discs.
This is news to me. I didn't even know multiple discs even existed anymore.
Oh yeah, I just bought Dead Space 2 the other day because I'm stupid and I keep buying games, and it's 2 discs for 360. So,
2 discs? Dead Space 2 is 2 discs.
Dead Space 2 is 2 discs. Granted, one might be an install disc. I'm not certain. And I've never installed a game before, so I don't know what that is.
I wasn't even aware of this. I had no idea.
I could, like I said, I haven't looked at it, so I don't know. But the point is, it says 2 discs on the package, which is like what? For 360, I need 2 discs. So anyway,
that's pretty amazing. I guess this is why all games are using Blu-ray drives nowadays. So the PlayStation 3, it did have one small win.
So and this is the point I actually kind of wanted to bring up, and it was that for the most part, consoles that are more technologically advanced seem to win. I think the one exception would be the PlayStation. But I think, again, I still think price and marketing is probably the 2 most important things, more important than probably anything else. Which is which is why the Wii initially won that generation, and you could still argue did win that generation. But
because it had the technology, just in a different sort of form.
Not the technology, because of the price. I'm saying for Super Nintendo, the PS2 with the only console to have the DVD drive, and then
Yes.
and then the PS3 with the Blu-ray.
Well, actually, the Xbox had a DVD drive as well. You have to.
That's
remember
right. I forgot about that.
You needed a special add-on to play DVDs, but
right. So count it, I guess. But then the PS3 with the Blu-ray eventually winning out as Blu-ray became more accepted across society, and now PS4 with its arguably, I don't know, does PS4 have better specs than Xbox One? I don't know. I don't care.
It definitely does.
Okay. Well, then there you go. So that actually seems to be kind of an indicator right there, the technology. And I'm not sure if that's like, it's probably not the main reason, but it's definitely a reason.
I believe it is the technology, but also technology combined with a competitive price. Because if the technology is if it's just too expensive, it doesn't matter how good it is. And that's sort of like the PlayStation 3. I mean, it was too expensive at the beginning.
Right. I mean, it could be, you could get what's Neil Young's MP3 player, the Pono player. It's not an MP3 player. It's a FLAC file player, and it only plays high def audio. That's so high def you literally cannot discern the difference. That's how high def it is. I did a report on that this semester. That's why I know so much about it. But it's like $1,000, and it's like, why would anyone ever buy this high def audio player that's $1,000? Nobody needs that. But you're right. If it's a competitive price. Even if it's the iPod, which is more expensive than other MP3 players, but it's marketed well and the price is still competitive, that's going to be the winner. So I think we just figured out marketing in a 50-minute episode of Effortless.
Marketing, huge. Yeah. It kept Sega in the game at the beginning, but it wasn't enough in the end.
Genesis does. You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
One thing, you have a great singing voice, by the way.
Thank you.
You should do ads. You should do ads for this show.
You know what we're actually going to do? We're going to start doing fake ads for Space Pirate Radio. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun.
I love it.
We're going to do like 2 or 3 ads per episode of like other shows you can watch on our channel or whatever. We need to do that reminds me, we need to do a promo for this show. And we'll put it up on we'll put it on Space Pirate Radio.
Perfect.
Maybe
love it.
People will actually listen to it now.
Maybe.
Nobody listens to us anymore. Our views have declined every week by half.
A few people will. It'll increase.
I hope maybe a little bit.
Because we're so good.
Here's an interesting fact for you, and we're no longer talking about our main subject because I'm tired of it. Every time we post a new video on this channel that does not have Omni in it, we lose a subscriber.
Ouch.
This is true. I every time. Yesterday we had 531. Today we have 530. And every time we post, and incidentally, we usually get a couple more back, but then we like lose one every time. So it's interesting.
So we just need to reverse engineer what Omni is doing with Smashified,
right?
And come up with something else.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous of his like 30,000 subscribers. Why don't any of them come over here? I mean, I'm sure some of them are.
Is it possible to like Gears of Warify everything?
Gears of Warify. Just make it look really like dark and gray and brown.
Dark with huge bodies, hulking bodies. Can you imagine Mario?
Well, that would be
Mario
a good fit.
Wearing Gears of War, like the Gears of War outfit.
Oh, this needs to happen. This is a great idea. This is the best idea
Link
we've ever
doing
had.
It. Yoshi would.
Freaking Yoshi, Gears of Warified Yoshi. This should happen. This should absolutely happen.
It needs to happen now.
What else would be good? Wario's kind of already there. They just need to put him in HD. You know how there's this image that went around the internet like right around the time of HD, and it's like why you don't want Mario in HD, and it's like this old scary man with like wrinkles and all this stuff. You remember seeing that?
I've seen that.
Like I always wanted to see Wario in that style. I think it'd be hilarious. Wario would just be like the ugliest, fattest monster creature thing ever in HD, and I don't feel like they've done Wario justice in HD. So there you go, Nintendo. This E3, I want Wario World remastered for Wii U. That's my pick. You ever play that?
Wario World?
For GameCube, yeah.
No, I never did.
Really? It was
Nope.
It was solid. I haven't played it probably since it came out.
The only Wario games I've played is I've played some of the WarioWare games. WarioWare. So I've played Twisted, I've played DIY, and the original Micro Games.
I love it. I love the WarioWare series. That's a great series.
I played the first Wario Game Boy game. Was that Super Mario Land 3?
Super Mario Land 3 Wario Land? I don't know. Maybe.
Yes. I believe that was the first Wario game I played. I also tried out, I got it through
the Ambassador program you're talking about?
No, GameFly a long time ago. And that was the Wario... The Wii game for the Wario Shake It or something?
Shake It, yeah. I didn't love that game. I thought it was mediocre.
Supposedly it had a lot of collecting and fun things to do, but I could not get into it for the life of me.
I felt the same way. I felt like it didn't, even though it was Wario and it was like funny, I felt like it didn't have a personality somehow.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt
it felt very bland.
It almost felt like they were trying to do like another franchise, and then they're like, what if it was Wario? Like they've done that in the past with the Star Fox. They did it with what was the other game they did that with, where they didn't have Splatoon. It was supposed to be Mario, and actually they reversed it. They changed it to Ink characters.
I'm also going to throw out another Gears of Warify, Pikmin. I want to see Pikmin Gears of Warified.
Pikmin was supposed to be a Mario game. Mario 128.
Mario 128.
Yeah, I think. They never really confirmed that.
All right.
But let's be realistic. It probably was.
I don't think we have anything else to discuss today.
Yeah, we have dived into the barrel, and we went to the bottom of the barrel, and we drowned in the barrel.
I love it. I love the barrel. Do a barrel roll.
Okay.
No laugh.
Hey,
you just
didn't laugh. You didn't laugh the entire frickin' episode. I don't have to laugh.
I had a few giggles.
You laughed
Snickers
once, maybe.
A couple times, a little.
That's it.
We are.
I've had enough of this.
Right? We are effortless.
Effortless.
We're done. Drop the mic. Actually,
I'm not gonna drop my mic because it'll create an unpleasant sound.
Thanks again, everybody, for listening to another episode of Effortless. If you made it, please comment.
Please leave comments. Please watch our videos.
We really want to talk to you guys. We want to talk about...
Says the guy who says he's going to get on the comments and then never does.
I keep waiting for somebody to, start something with me. And then it'll be on. Like Donkey Kong.
I knew you were going to go there.
We knew it?
We are a perfect match.
All right. So thanks, everybody, again, for listening. Comment, subscribe, like... Any of those three, we'll be happy with it.
Share videos. I don't care about... You're already a subscriber if you're watching this stupid thing.
Well,
because you have to be really devoted to this channel to be watching this.
This is a good show, though. But
it is a good show, but nobody watches it, so...
I do.
I watch it, too. I probably am half the views.
Actually, my girlfriend, who does not really enjoy games... listens to our episodes.
Did she really listen to the show?
So that means we are doing something right, people.
She is going to love my segment on face tattoos.
She probably will. I wish we had not edited parts of it out. She would really laugh.
Oh, I'm sure she would.
All right, everybody.
I said some things I would definitely regret in the part that we edited out.
This is Effortless. Have a good week. Go play a game.
Play 52 games.
Krabby, Snubble, Van and At, Mankey, Chancy, and Zubat, King Ditto,